Mr. J. Christopher, protect the righteous with wisdom and strength.
Okay, so now how does age and the generation of the workforce impact the choices both the managers and subordinates make in achieving that parity? So Gen Y, Gen X, millennials?
Well, I mean, we're still trying to figure that out. One of the things that's interesting is millennials have come into the workplace with very different perspectives on how their lives should be based upon how they were raised and whatnot. And organizations are trying to be flexible to accommodate them while also recognizing that organizations depend upon people to respond in certain ways. And so there's easy ways in which our companies will bend, and so they'll try to be a little bit more flexible with time and stuff like that. But there's other ways where the millennials are going to have to learn to conform because that's what the organization requires. And so how that balance all plays out, we still don't completely know. And then there's also, but one of the things that's interesting about it is that there are a lot of millennials who are still looking for, very senior people who can be, kind of give them insights because they don't have anyone to help them figure it out. And they've been, coddled is probably the wrong word, but a lot of times the helicopter parents have protected them from a lot of the stuff that we would have learned about the organizations.
Like everyone gets a trophy?
Right, exactly.
There's no one loses?
No one loses,
Yeah.
but the thing is, if no one loses, then no one gets trained on what you need to do in order to win. And so they need people who can help them with that. And they need to find people who are able to give them constructive, critical feedback.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you grow. And so, I always tell folks, look, if everyone tells you that everything that you're doing is great, then they're not doing you a favor. So when your boss gives you a review and says you're doing a great job, you say thank you. Now, are there any things that I could do a little bit different to do an even better job? Or what are some of the things you want to give them permission to give you that constructive, critical feedback that you can then take in?
That was deep.
We don't stop shut fire.
Permission.
Well, because here's the problem, especially if your boss is different from you, they're scared. Oftentimes they're scared to give you that constructive, critical feedback because they don't want to be labeled as being racist or sexist.
That's such a great point. You have to open up that door. You got to open up that feedback door. Otherwise, like you said, people will be, especially in the culture we operate in now, where there's this hypersensitivity to offend, and there's this hyper political correctness. I don't want to say something, she may take that wrong.
Right.
So it's like, let them know that, hey, I want your feedback.
Right.
Let me ask you this, because millennials oftentimes get a bad rap from my generation. But I'm curious to know from your research or from your experience, what do they tend to do right? What do they tend to do better than our generation in the workforce?
Well, I think one of the things is they're more open to taking a different approach. And one of the things is, as any company, any organization needs, people who can provide different and creative thoughts. And so we're going to think outside the box. And so the challenge for companies is when they bring those different ideas in to figure out how they can take that input in and build it into the company overall.
Interesting.
Mr. J. Christopher, protect the righteous with wisdom and strength.